Good evening and welcome everybody to ERL Racing League, of course, for what is a special event today. Because obviously we've got the Dutch Grand Prix coming to you, and we've got the rest of the world Grand Prix coming to you. So we've got two Grand Prix, or two teams. One team representing the rest of the world, the other team representing, obviously, the Netherlands. And obviously, I'm not sure exactly all the drivers on both sides of the divide, of course, but we've got quite a number of drivers, obviously, on the other side of the divide. It'd be interesting to see what liveries they've all picked for this evening. And yeah, um, obviously we are now waiting for the first driver to go out. Um, if you can hear me, just let me know down in the chat if you don't mind. That'd be good. Just so I know that I am properly live. We have got a one-shot qualifying tonight, which personally, I'm going to quickly turn down the volume on the, what you call it, the audio. I always put it a little bit up for the engine curb noise. Right, I presume this is the Dutch livery. Then the black and orange, quite interesting. With the, I suppose, the black and orange. Obviously orange, yes, but black? Is that really in the Netherlands livery scheme, I suppose? It's quite nice, though. Not criticising the paint job. Just a bit, how can you put it, confused. Anyway, someone else is currently on a better lap. I think it's CPI. Danny currently leading the way. Obviously, we won't really know who's on the best lap until everyone's really crossed the line. So we'll just watch CPI Danny, see how he's getting on. I think he's the top at the moment. Could be wrong, really. But we will see anyway. He will come across the line very, very soon. That's his lap time then. So currently in the 113s, obviously. Be about 127. Probably by the time they all cross the lap, obviously the delta time lap, or the timing line, and in fact it's a lot more than a 127, it's a 125, and it was CPI Danny who took the pole, and obviously CPI Danny qualifies pole then for this first event. Now I do wonder if we do have two qualifyings tonight, one short qualifying. I know we got two Grand Prix. First would be Silverstone, then it would be obviously the Netherlands. Both are going to be basically 13 lap events or whatever. It is short 25%. So anyway, Danny on pole, Matthews second, Dudley in third, Storms in fourth, Charlie Harris fifth, Manzanot Bob in sixth, Girthquake seventh, Eamon in eighth, then ERR Piers in ninth, and Iron Kid 10th. Outside the top 10, we have Appledorm, Tom, What the Kilometre, Zandvort, Brian, Witty, Lucky, Egg, and then FCG, Algary, and Litz both all getting disqualified at the back of grid. Had to sort of rush through that final bit, but yeah. Nonetheless, that is a decent grid, I suppose, for the race. And we'll have to wait and see which team comes out on top. But I think it looking good. This certainly round one for the Dutch, for the for the Holland or Netherlands country, looking very, very good. Obviously, in case you're wondering why we're doing this, obviously I have no idea really, but obviously I suppose the reason why we're doing it, obviously, is because half the league is made up of Dutch community and drivers, whereas the other half is made up of everyone from other European countries such as Greece. I think we've got someone from Jamaica, as well. Charlie Harris, pretty sure that's the flag he uses. So we've got different ethnicities in the and nationalities in obviously the league, obviously. But here we go then, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go then for the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone. It's a good start by Danny Dude-Levo getting also off the line well, as then they all come through with CPI Matthias then ahead of Storms in fourth, sorry. Then we see Charlie Harris going side by side with Man's Not Bob. Man's Not Bob though going to get a bit squeezed out there, and by the looks of it, Man's Not Bob is down into 6th place then in this opening lap. Pretty sure everyone's on the softs, then compound, probably maybe 1 or 2 on mediums. However, softs probably is the way to go here. Obviously, there isn't really much strategy out there today. As we see, I think that was Lit. Oh no, sorry, it was Appledorn going off in the background, crashing into the Armco barrier at Luffield. That's a very unusual mistake to make there, and that's a long way back to the pit lane as well for the Dutch driver of Appledorn. He's going to have to come around Maggots, Beckett's, Cops, and all of them corners to obviously get back to the pit lane, and plus Stowe. So got a long drive back to pit lane, plus it's one of the longest pit, losses here. I think it's about 30 seconds overall. So with the wing change, you're probably looking at 40 seconds. Appledorn's going to lose to the back of the grid plus more. So probably going to be about almost a lap down, really, by the time everyone comes back out in this race. But anyway, back at the front, CPI Danny leads only just though by Dude-Lay, who's right now on the back of CPI Danny, who is, Dude-Lay is doing a really good job actually for the rest of the world. And I have to say, rest of the world got plenty of their colour cars, which is that silverish, is it silver? It looks like silver from the onboard. It's like a grey, silver and purple for the rest of the world. That's what they've gone for. Quite like their colour scheme there. To be fair, I would have probably preferred if they went for, I don't know if any of you remember it, but I think it was a 2006 Honda. I'm pretty sure it was a 2006 Honda. I could be wrong which Honda it was, but they went for that Earth car. I think that would have been probably a bit nicer if we could saw some sort of recreation of that. That would have been absolutely stunning to see on the track. But one of actually my favourite liveries of all time. But I tell you what, Dude-Lay's getting very, very close into Stowe we go, and has a look up the inside, but by the looks of it, CPI Danny was obviously ahead come the braking zone, and obviously there wasn't a gap in the end for Dude-Lay to go into there then, so had to back out. But the top 3 are doing really, really well, and really, well, top 5 actually are kind of pulling away from Man's Not Bob at the moment. Charlie Harris just hanging in there, and right now obviously 4 of the top 3 are in that battle, but Man's Not Bob coming under a bit of pressure then from Girthquake. Obviously DRS will be enabled this lap, so we might see a few passes going on. Obviously those cars within a second will get the opportunity to make that. So Man's Not Bob goes to the inside defensive, gets the car though ahead of him of Girthquake, and Girthquake went down the inside with DRS. Of course, in the end, Man's Not Bob couldn't cover it off quite enough, and ultimately with that DRS advantage, Girthquake up into 6th. So that's now 4 cars of the rest of the world inside now the top 6. So the rest of the world really punching their weight here. Obviously, in terms of whether or not they've got the better team, arguably they do, so the rest of the world should certainly be handy. But anyway, Man's Not Bob now, time to hit back at Girthquake, and can he send it around the outside? He's going to try and hang it around the outside on the medium compound, but goes out wide, and eventually then there has to kind of give up the position. However, still keeps his car in and launched over the sausage curb and gets spun around, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that one has to go down as Man's Not Bob's fault, I think, there. But anyway, Iron Kid is going to have a look now around the outside of his teammate, and in the end backs out. But someone who ain't going to back out is going to be Armen, who's going to go up the inside and trying to get a bit of revenge and redemption for the Dutch drivers then here. Because right now, Netherlands have only got, I think, one car inside the top 6. And that's obviously CPI Danny, who is leading the way though. But it's not going that great for the rest, for the Dutch and for the Netherlands drivers. It's not really been their day here at Silverstone. So Airman is going to have to try and breach through that wall then. Because ultimately the Dutch are looking a bit down and out if this is the case after one race. And I don't want to write them off, but you know, really with six of the top 7 all being rest of the world cars, therefore it doesn't seem like they've got really anything to go for it. But Edmund is going to try and put that right, and he moves himself up the inside, up into 7th, and now Netherlands will gain an extra 2 points through that. Then there, as we see, one of them, I think it was ERL Piers, into the pit. Sorry, no, it's Tom actually into the pit. So Tom's in, and the rest continue on. Obviously, Piers is actually driving for rest of the world, and he's also in the top 9. So yeah, this is going really, really well for the rest of the world team at the moment, because they pretty much have, well, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6. About 7 cars inside the top 10. The Netherlands have about 3. Or 4, sorry. So, yeah, for them, them 4 cars, though, one of them's leading the way by about a second. That's the CPI Danny, who's your race leader. But yeah, only 7 cars though for the rest of the world. That's going to bring them serious points. And given it's a team event, you know, obviously, probably the more cars you have inside the top 10, the better your chances of winning this event is. Ultimately, as YT picks up a penalty, and that's 3 seconds added to his time. So that's not going to be good for him. Obviously, Man's Not Bob also got about 3 seconds. But obviously had that incident, and yeah, that incident earlier on has to go down as his fault. As Dudelay now takes to the pit lane and will be now trying the undercut on CPI Danny. So what does CPI Danny do here? Because obviously, as I say, strategy isn't really something, you know, really involved in a race like this. You know, tyre management, you know, with 13 laps, you know, is probably the least of your concerns. So really, does Danny have to immediately respond here to Dudelay, who I imagine will be so much faster on either way, fresher compound or tyres? I think he will. Obviously, Danny is going to go on to that hard compound. He's gone on to the hard, so he hasn't gone on to mediums. Okay, that seems like he's thrown that race win away, and he's picked up a penalty for good measure, so that's not great for the rest of the world team. So in a way, CPI Danny might have this one a bit in the bag. Obviously, CPI Matthias, though, is closing up, so he's going to be the car next to apply the pressure to CPI Danny. So both of these two, I suspect, will be now the main 2 focuses of this race, and both of them on similar strategies. But CPI Matthias is now into the pit lane. And does he get his car slowed down? I think he did. So he's obviously going for the undercut. Going to put on those fresh, soft compound tyres. And Storms picks up a 5 seconds as he enters the pits. Obviously for speeding, and that'll hurt him. But anyway, here we go then. What tyres does obviously CPI Matthias go for? I presume it'll be the soft compound. It is the soft compound. So he'll rejoin this race, obviously down the order, but will have that fresher compound. Now, does he come out in clear air? I suppose that will be the key question here in this race for him. If he does, that would be good. I think he will, and I think he'll have quite a bit of it. So he can just get out there and push straight away without any, you know, sort of impediment, I suppose. and ultimately that just gives him a nice chance of getting this race win potentially, and he will be able to undercut here now, CPI Danny. So CPI Danny now, is he going to respond this lap? That'll be ultimately down to him to decide if he should or shouldn't, and if he does, well, it is going to have to be this lap. If he does go a little bit longer, then obviously we'll get a bit of a fresher tyre, so therefore could also be faster that way. But he probably is going to lose the race lead here overall, considering where things are. If not, it's going to be very, very close on pit exit. It gets a bit of a tank slapper, actually, at the exit of Stowe, so messy then. And also locking up the tyres as he enters the pit lane. But anyway, he is into the pits, and obviously this will be his then pit stop that he will make. Unfortunately, not letting me view the off-board camera, so I've only got access to this onboard. I would prefer the off-board, to be honest. Anyway, here is the off-board now. That's a bit better. And he will head down the pit lane. So where will he come out? This is a battle we want to know at the moment. Is he going to come out behind CPI Matthias? If so, how much by? As someone has gone off in the final or second final corner. Not entirely sure who it is. Might be Tom again. But there goes Matthias. He is through. And there is CPI Danny. So Danny has come out about a second behind. So he's lost overall. Danny has 2 seconds in that pit stop phase to CPI Matthias. However, does have a fresher tyre. So we'll have maybe a bit more to give towards the end of this race and during the remaining laps. That will help him out a little bit, I suppose. But is it really a big gain here? I'm not entirely convinced. Can CPI Matthias make this work? Absolutely. So, anyway, we're going to have a look a bit further down the grid, see what's going on. So, we've got Girthquake on the back of Airman at the moment. Currently, Airman, though, with a penalty of the sorts. And that's going to hurt him. So, no matter what happens, Girthquake will move up the order if he keeps his nose clean. And you can see, looking like right now, he's got a bit more pace than the Dutch driver. And right now is utilising that pace, utilising that extra, probably tyre grip as well he's got, given he's on the softs. Airman's on the mediums. He goes to the inside, taking the more risky approach, but gets a move done at Stowe, and that is him up into 8th. And it will soon be even higher, probably be about 6th by the time these drivers have made their stops. So there we go. That is obviously Girthquake up into 6th, and now, or 7th, or is it 6th? Nope, it's 6th. So there we go. Yep, Airman up into, Girthquake up into 6th, Airman down into 7th, and that is another position gained for the rest of the world driver. So, how are things going for anyone else? Got a good battle going on down the field. Witty then, but we're going to go back to race leader because that one is looking like it's closing up out front, and Danny's actually got past then his man of CPI Matthias then here. And these two are really good top drivers, obviously, at the moment, so you have to give them credit where credit is due. Obviously, Danny is right now going through Beckett's complex, and same with Matthias. Matthias within 4 attempts, so we'll get DRS. Right now, Danny will be punching a hole through the air for Matthias, and Matthias is going to be close enough as we get to Stowe. The answer is no. So Matthias is going to have to remain behind. If he keeps obviously within that DRS, we'll help him out obviously. Anyway, going back down the field, we're seeing Girthquake make a move, I think, on Charlie Harris, or was it Charlie Harris on Girthquake? I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, someone made a move on someone. Anyway, Zonneveld is going to probably try and make the move on now Tom. And here we go then, Tom then going around the outside, has a little look, but then gets a bit all out of shape as Tom obviously retains the position, goes a bit deep though into, I think that's Club, and gets his over switchback though as we go out of Club. Here we go, almost like a through-go Hamilton moment. And I'm not sure who that was. Was it Witty? It was Witty spinning at the final corner. And that obviously sees him plummet down the order. Then on that main straight, on the Hamilton straight, of course. All the straights, I think, have got names around here, to be fair. The main straight's Hamilton Straight. This is, I think, the Hangar Straight, if I'm correct in saying. Could be wrong. Then the other, well, the straight we're about to go on to is the not Luffield Straight, the old International Pit Straight. Pretty sure it's called. And then the final straight is the not actually sure. Actually, the other one must be Hangar. I'm not actually sure then what the other one down from, I think it's Farm Corner down into Luffield. Not sure what that is called actually. But yeah, it is called something. Obviously, which is helpful to know. But anyway, back to the race leaders and them two remaining as they are. So no change there. Obviously, it's good to see the gaps are quite close, so, you know, lots of action going on out there between everyone. Obviously, gaps get a bit more separated as we go a bit further down the field, but it is still close racing. So lap 11 of the race, and ultimately, only 2 laps to go. I think Danny's probably got this one covered, unless something dramatic happens. But, you know, this is league racing. It certainly could. You know, drama in league racing is literally the name of the game, I suppose, to some degree. Right now, though, looking good, though, for the rest of the world team. So, currently, not really entirely sure what the point situation would be, but I suspect it'd be very, very good for the rest of the world. We're going to have a quick look at the penalties, because ultimately, I suppose we need to kind of know what everyone's got. So, currently, Dudelay would then finish ahead of Storms with that 5 seconds, but would probably be demoted down to, down into 6th. At the moment, I think. Might be wrong. Now, I do wonder whether Dudelay could tactically employ something here, and I don't want him to do a Charles Leclerc, but in a sense, I think a Charles Leclerc could be good. Back Dudelay off into his teammates, because the next driver actually behind Dudelay, without a penalty for the Dutch team, has to be, I think, maybe Zonneveld. Yeah, it's Zonneveld. So there's no real risk of Dudelay losing that position. So, in my opinion, you know, I'm just saying, I'm not, you know, saying do it deliberately, but, well, do it deliberately, of course, but I think it'd be a good idea if actually Dudelay tried to slow down and tried to play with Storm's race just to back Storm's up into the rear of the pack with about a lap and a half to go. That's what I'd probably be doing. Obviously, he doesn't know that information that I can see. He probably can only see, you know, what the driver behind's got and maybe the car and what the gap behind him is. So, you know, Dudelay wouldn't be privy to that information, I suppose. But, yeah, certainly that could be a tactic Dudelay could employ if he's listening in. To the stream, obviously, that he could try and back off his rival into the back of the pack and try and make him lose points and positions. Through that would be, I suppose, a good tactic to employ in some sense. He's going to lose positions anyway. I think he'll at least drop down into 6th, but obviously could lose more if he if Dudelay wanted him to. He could probably even drop down into probably could drop actually down into at least 9th potentially if he really wanted to employ that tactic. But anyway, we are on the final lap, so what's going to go on? So Danny is currently your race leader. Back to the race leader anyway. Enough talking about about what Dudelay could or couldn't do. But what we are going to talk about is Danny obviously about to win then this first race, and both Matthias and Danny, Matthias picking up a 3-second penalty, so that near enough ensures the victory for Danny today in Silverstone at least. Can he do it again in Zandvort in about literally 5 or 10 minutes time, however long we'll have to wait for that race to get sorted. But here we go then, through the final couple corners. It's going to be Danny coming out the final corner here at Silverstone. Takes the win for the Dutch. And it is a great day then for him. Matthias comes home second for the rest of the world. Dudele is going to come home in third, 14 seconds behind his teammate. Then will he remain on the podium? I suppose that is to be foreseen. However, Storms is certainly going to lose positions. Girthquake up into the podium spots. Charlie Harris promoted up into fourth. Storms down into sixth. Eero appears in seventh. Iron Kid in eighth. Man's Not Bob coming home ninth. And Airman in 10th. Zonnevild, I think, will take 11th. And it'll be F-Street down in 12th. Tom in 13th. Brian in 14th. Then it's Litz, Lucky Egg. Then it's Witty coming around the final corner now, followed by Appledorm and Algery with 11 seconds of penalties. Obviously, he'll be the final driver to complete this race. But that is then how the end of then round one in this Dutch versus rest of the world race is going. And I would have to say that's a great result for then obviously rest of the world getting 4 cars inside the top 5, and they had about 6 or 7 cars inside the top 8. So really impressive stuff from rest of the world. Obviously not quite the result I imagine that the Dutch drivers would have wanted, only having I think about 3 or 4 cars in there, but you know, nonetheless they'll be trying to hit back at Netherlands. Obviously they still won, so that'll be still a very good result for them, but of course it's still by no stretch of the imagination a result that they would have wanted here for this round one. They probably would have wanted to win plus get more cars inside the top 5, at least one more car inside the top 5, because really with that like top 5 being, you know, mostly rest of the world, that's going to sort of like nullify, you know, what Danny's done. And you know, with Iron Kid and you know, Eero Peers, you know, also inside the top 10, you know, that's going to really, you know, be good again for them and sort of nullify what Storms has done. And I guess the only part where it's quite good, down from 9th to 12th, we've got, you know, obviously Man's Not Bob down to Shade down in 12th. Then obviously that's a good result there for them. So they've got good mid-pack, I suppose, but, you know, still plenty points taken from obviously rest of world there. I think this is going to be a good result for rest of world tonight. So I'm not entirely too sure how long the break is going to be, so I'm just going to have, you know, a quick minute break to have a quick drink and refreshment, of course. So when we get going, I'll be back commentating, of course, as soon as we get into qualifying. However, I don't think we've got too long to wait because people are readying up. I'm not sure they've been told to, but of course, yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll probably be a 5-minute break maybe. Rightio. So, we are back after a short break. Um, which, of course, we are now heading off to the Netherlands for the second race then of this event. And again, obviously, same format, a 25% race followed by a one shot qualified followed by a 25% race. It would be a bit weird if we did it the other way around. To be fair, still, who knows? Maybe one day that will become a thing. Knowing how the FIA loves to play with the Formula One format, maybe the race will happen before qualifying in future, which would make it certainly more entertaining. Because you'd know who won, but you wouldn't know who qualified first. That'd be quite the entertainment. Anyway, enough of that. Anyway, they obviously will have 28 seconds to get their setups ready. Who on earth readies up that quickly? I'd be absolutely livid. In some sense, if someone done that. I mean, you need at least a minute, barely 10 seconds to get your setup ready. There. At least a minute, guys. To choose a setup, I think. But anyway, it don't really matter too much. This is obviously only a special event, and what I mean by that, it's a special event. It's not obviously really that important anyway. Event for obviously a bit of personal pride, I suppose, a bit of personal fun. That's really what this event is all about. And CPI Danny has already invalidated, and yeah, that's not what he wanted to do. So Obviously, Netherlands, it is a different track, therefore different characteristics and different challenges for the drivers. So, going from one track also to another, there's obviously also a challenge and an element of difficulty in that. Driving already from now well, you've already sort of gotten half used to what Silverstone had to offer you. Now you've got to acclimatise and adapt to what the beaches of Zandvort's got to give you, and ultimately that's, well, a challenge within itself, let alone doing a one-shot qualifying here and trying to eye up the perfect lap then around the Zandvoort circuit. But I tell you who is doing that right now, eyeing up the perfect lap around the Zandvoort circuit. It's going to be CPI Matthias taking the pole position, and from a do delay, so that's a really good result again for rest of the world. Algri and Eamon also doing really good, and Apeldoorn. So this is a much better qualifying by the Dutch drivers then here, with I think 4 of their cars inside the top 6. So that's a really, or top 7, sorry. So that's a really, really good qualifying from them drivers. So yeah, a lot better qualifying, but it's still then a huge gulf and a huge gap between Matthias, Dudelay, Eamon and Algri, almost a second splitting the top 4. And then you got Apeldoorn in 5th, Manzenot Bob 6th. Then we got Storms, Charlie, Girthquake, Iron Kid, Tom, Zonneville, Shade, then Litz, Brian Whitty, then Piers, and then Lucky Egg, then CPI Danny, also getting disqualified. More disqualifications here, maybe more penalties then to come also in the race compared to Silverstone. In a sense, I do think this is a bit of a tougher track when it comes to the track limits. And what I mean by that, not necessarily you're going to get more track limit violations, but it's more tougher. You make a mistake and you're into a barrier around here, which in a sense I do love tracks like that. I am all for, sort of like, you go over the limit, effectively you're going to be punished, and the punishment for that will be you're out of the race, you're into a barrier, bye bye. And that, I do like that element of some tracks, like Zandvoort, like Japan, because, some of these more modern tracks, don't get me wrong, they're lovely, great facilities, but they're a bit unrewarding, and, I think, or unpunishing, like take, the race yesterday, reason why it was probably such a snorefest is because, there is no element of danger, there's no element of, punishment for a driver if they make a mistake. If they make a mistake, it's easily recovered. And that's the thing about, tracks like Abu Dhabi. If you do make a mistake around Abu Dhabi, you got a barrier 50 miles away. Anyway, we're about to go racing anyway for the second time tonight in, obviously, Zandvoort for then the second time. And it's go, go, go for the racing drivers then here in then Zandvoort. And it's a good start by the rest of the world, taking a 1-2 into the first corner after taking pole. But then it is a orange army, or orange and black army behind then with 5 cars, and they're all pretty much staying in formation. I don't know whether this is the tactic to stay in formation like that, but that actually did look quite beautiful for a second. Almost looks like what do you call it? One of them, sort of like protects. Well, at one stage it sort of like barricade they were forming around Storms and Apeldoorn there, with Apeldoorn and the other 2 on the outside. But anyway, it looks like Algri is on the attack, so he's certainly going for it in this early phase, trying to give the 2 ahead of him no respite. Gets out of shape though as he does, and that's going to hurt him, seeing him lose a bit of time to the back of Dudelay, and ultimately lose then that as well. Anyway, we're crossing the line for the first time as we go down the field. Zonneville outbreaks his rival Girthquake as they, on the exit, almost touch, but Girthquake keeps his car in there, and fair play to Girthquake, keeps the position as well. So that is Girthquake remaining in 10th. Now, interestingly here, the Dutch drivers have gone for the softs, whereas by the looks of it, the rest of the world, most of the rest of the world drivers have gone for the mediums. So we're almost not just seeing a split in terms of teams, but we're seeing a true split in terms of, actual team strategy decisions here. Not sure what that's necessarily about, whether that is pre-planned or whether, there is like sort of chat going on, like if there's like a team radio sort of thing, party for everyone or for both teams to communicate with each other. But maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not entirely sure, because if that's the case, then I suppose Tom and Piers, both on softs, obviously did not get the memo, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, Tom is going to be through. Piers is going to be through. Tom is into the pit lane. Then, as we see now, Girthquake and then once again Zandvort both going out again in the same section of track. Can Zandvort keep? Can Girthquake keep then his car in there? In the end, sort of sent it into the Tarzan corner. I'm pretty sure that's called Tarzan. Not entirely sure what the corner names are around here, but nonetheless, great circuit. But that was a bit aggressive by Girthquake. Would want to watch that. I'm not sure if penalties can be still given out in this race or not. Potentially they can. Potentially there will be steward reports made. Obviously, I hope there won't be too many for the steward's sake. But yeah, obviously, maybe there can be one or two steward reports made. I'm not entirely too sure how that's going to work tonight to sort out any dirty driving or any, accidents or incidents, whether or not that will be such a thing. But anyway, if it is or it isn't, don't really concern me too much. But CPI Danny doing then, a lost the first challenge, currently up into 9th, and isn't actually too far off the race lead, actually, and we're only on lap 4, so this has been a good drive from him so far. Obviously, he can help out his team, and next up here for him is Charlie Harris. So again, this is looking a much, much better display by, obviously the Dutch team, who currently had a bit of a poor showing in Silverstone, but this circuit looking so much stronger, already, and they're obviously looking to hit back. But obviously CPI Danny, he's probably the main one to watch in terms of if the threat is going to come from anywhere and from anyone, it's got to be CPI Danny. So how does then his teammates approach him? Because, obviously for them, they know, obviously, CPI Danny, they know his pace, they know how vital it's going to be that he goes on and be the main challenger. Will we just see drivers move over and let him through? Certainly that's what Appledorm's choosing to do then here, and that's exactly what Appledorm has done. Next up for then, obviously, CPI Danny will be his other teammate of Algerie, who then is obviously in 6th. Again, where will Algerie let his his fellow teammate through? Obviously, he's still going to lose time, CPI Danny, whilst trying to come through these drivers, but it's more of a question how much time does he lose rather than, trying to lose the least amount of time. So I imagine Algerie will let his teammate through down into this part of the circuit. No? Is he going to let him through here? Sort of moves off the line, and I think he's looking to let him through soon. Obviously this is holding his teammate up a little bit. So there we go. There is the switch, is it? It looks like it's almost half of a switch, but not quite, and eventually gets the switch done. But that's cost CPI Danny a lap, so that's not the best of teamwork there by Algerie and Danny. But anyway, man's not Bob. Will he sort of make a little bit up for it then? Here, will he let his teammate through a bit sooner? Has a look up the inside, and yes, he does. So this time, only spending half a lap behind Man's Not Bob. So that's certainly much better teamwork by them two to just, you know, get out of the way and get on with it. But anyway, CPI Danny having a bit of a moment anyway, so losing a bit of time there himself, making an uncharacteristic mistake, arguably, there. And that's going to see him just have a little bit more work to do to catch up to the back of Airman and Storms, who are currently about 3 seconds off the race leaders. And currently your race leaders are Dudelay and Matthias. So where they finish is going to be crucial in this race, because if they finish, obviously, you know, somewhere in the top half of the standings or top half of this race, then obviously it could be a great result for, you know, obviously the rest of the world. But if not, I could see a bit of a struggle here coming their way. So, lap 7 of the race, CPI Danny catching his other teammates as well. Now, will these drivers just, again, let him through like his other teammates, or are they going to put up a bit more of a fight? Obviously, they are a bit faster than maybe the other drivers who CPI Danny got through, but obviously they're still teammates, as we see Storms move literally out the way for both his teammates. And there goes CPI Danny up into 3rd, and now the race begins. So CPI Danny 5 seconds behind, then I think that's the interval to the race leader. Actually no, sorry, 5.9 seconds behind, so 6 seconds almost off the lead. Is now 6 seconds as it comes across the line. Off the race lead, then off the leader is 5 seconds behind Dudelay, in then 3rd. Obviously, still this is looking good though for the rest of the world. I can't say that probably enough, because, you know, rest of the world, you know, ultimately, given where they are, you know, 1, 2, you know, 25 or whatever points, maximum, it's a maximum point score for the first 2. Anyway, going their way. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, for, you know, the rest of them, they still need to try and, you know, breach that then. And also, thing is, obviously, can't rule out what then the other drivers can do. And in a sense, what Anchored, Girthquake, and also Lucky Egg and, you know, some of the other drivers can do, this is going to be crucial for them. Now, Charlie Harris, can he again get through? He does kind of need his teammate to work with him here, and Lucky Egg does that, lets him through now. However, in the background, Whitty going off and losing position, and that's going to be a bit costly for this team. So, Charlie Harris trying to chase down Mans Not Bob. Both of them similar sort of tyre life. So, CPI Danny into the pit lane. Then here, after 8 laps on those tyres. Now, if you were Dudelay and obviously Matthias, they've got a bit of time to respond. I would say they don't have to react immediately. Personally, I think they can take a lap or 2 to react a little bit later, and obviously have those softs and be in a very, very strong position. I think obviously Dudelay might react this lap to that, but we'll have to wait and see if he does or doesn't. But yeah, obviously still will have fresher tyres, still will have a better tyre, and I imagine they'll go on to the softs, considering they're halfway through this race. So anyway, Charlie Harris trying to chase down then the 2 ahead of him, but is obviously on a bit of an older compound tyre at the moment, but is still trying to do it and trying to score good points for his team. Is now ahead of Algary though, that's also something worth noting. So has gotten ahead of one of the Dutch drivers, but we'll have to wait and see. So Dudelay's immediately reacting to what then obviously CPI Danny's done, and on goes the soft tyre compound then, and he will come back out obviously ahead of those Dutch drivers and will get back out there on his way, and Iron Kid will move up into 2nd, but we'll have a healthy gap to obviously CPI Danny, who quite frankly just coming through the first corner now, as we just saw there in the background. So yeah, again, we'll have better tyres, we'll therefore have you know, fresher, quicker and softer compound, therefore more grip, and be able to set faster lap times. Then obviously Danny, potentially faster lap times than Danny to the end of this race. and will be in a strong position. Those tyres, though, will go off at the end. Don't think they won't, though. How much? You know, it'll be down really to Duday to manage that. So these, you know, first few laps are going to be really, really critical for Duday. Now, with Matthias, I think he has, well, we'll lose the race lead, but ultimately, this is the lap where he's going to react now. So he'll be also in a strong position. Again, we'll come out ahead of Danny by a couple seconds. How much? I think be only, yeah, probably be only about 2 seconds here. It is a big undercut by the looks of it, actually. But here we go then. We're going to find out where, obviously, Matthias comes out. There is Matthias going through the first corner. There is, obviously, then Duday, and Duday is now ahead of his teammate then. So now, these two kind of want to get this sorted out as quickly, I think, as possible here. Ironkid could also be a bit of a factor here in this race. Now, obviously, I don't know what Ironkid can do, but in a sense, I think Ironkid should try and back a little bit off into, you know, Danny, just to protect. And that's exactly what he's doing then. Playing the team game, makes a little bit of contact. We don't want to see that. But anyway, there we go. So anyway, Matthias is currently then ahead. So we're going to have to see then what goes on. Now, how does obviously, you know, these two swap positions? Do they just wait for that DRS? Obviously, I think that's probably the best way to deal with this at the moment. You know, don't obviously swap positions right now, but just wait for the DRS. And we can see then, here we go then, for the race lead. Matthias retaking the lead. And this is going to see then Matthias take it back, is it? No. So Matthias doesn't go for it, and Matthias remains then behind his teammate. So that's a very interesting call, I find, because, you know, ultimately Matthias, you'd think, is the best positioned to go on and win in this scenario. So we're going to have a quick look further back, and in fact Algary's spun. That's going to be problematic for him. That's going to see Girthquake and Tom both go through. So that's going to see two of then the rest of the world cars move up a position. That's going to be a bit detrimental to them. But right, now we're seeing a swap for the lead, and we've now had that swap, and there we go. Duday down into second, and obviously Matthias up into first. Now, it'll be kind of critical if Duday can sort of stay within Matthias's, obviously, DRS. If he can do that, at least he'll be pulled along by then Matthias, and that could help, certainly. I'm sure that's what we intend to do. So give Duday the DRS. Anyway, here goes Man's Not Bob, getting a move. Sorry, not Man's Not Bob. It's going to be Appledon, sorry. Getting a move done on Man's Not Bob. Man's Not Bob is still involved, though. That's for sure. Anyway, Charlie Harris is catching, though, these two, fist over foot. And despite being on an older compound, is going to be soon right on the back of Man's Not Bob's gearbox. And ultimately, that car, well, still looking good for them. But, yeah, this is certainly still looking great for the rest of the world, who's still got a good handful of cars inside the top 10. They've got about 5. I'm pretty sure it's an even split at the moment in terms of cars inside the top 10. Reason why I say top 10 is because that's where most of the points is going to be scored anyway. You know, obviously the points, I think every position gets points in this league, so everyone will score down to 19th. But obviously, in terms of where the biggest points are going to be scored, it's certainly going to be the top 10 and top 5 at least. So, yeah, still a good result for, you know, the Dutch, but, you know, is it enough to claw it back after what happened in Silverstone, where, you know, clearly they got outnumbered in that top 10, 7-3 or something like that. It was a pretty big win, I think, there in Silverstone for then obviously the rest of the world cars compared to the Dutch team. But anyway, we're about to find out anyway what goes down in these final few laps. Only 4 laps to go, so not long. And Yeah, there is still a bit of a gap for Danny to chase down if he wants to take that P2, which I'm not entirely sure he can do with currently that set of tyres. Those mediums don't look like it's giving him the extra pace that he needs. He did have a good pace, obviously did get the undercut a little bit, but did close the gap down, but it's not going to be enough in the end. And for Matthias, he's pulling his teammate along for good measure, which is just extending Dudelay's advantage over then obviously Danny, who currently sits 3 seconds behind Dudelay in third then. So where is Charlie? Is Charlie doing enough to get past Man's Not Bob? The answer is no, but the only thing is Appledorn pulling away like this is going to leave obviously Man's Not Bob vulnerable to that DRS down that main straight, and it isn't necessarily most powerful DRS, but it is a very powerful DRS. And oh no, that's a really unfortunate racing error by our race leader. Matthias has spun. Now it kind of in a way has given the Dutch a bit of an opportunity, a bit of an open goal to go and win this race. So can Dudelay hang on for 3 or 4 laps? That's what it is. Currently the gap's 2.8. Still would take a big effort from Danny to go and win this one. But I tell you what, you know, there's nothing better for a driver than when they can smell blood, if you know what I mean. You know, when you can just smell, you know, that victory, you know, potentially is there, you're going to be hungrier than ever to go and win it. So, and potentially find pace. For Matthias, he's in a way sort of made a huge error. Still not obviously big in terms of things. Obviously, it will still see him top 3, but cost his team certainly a few points, which isn't going to be helpful in the end to secure it properly. And effectively, put it this way, you know, the rest of the world would, you know, how can you put it? 3-1 up, or 4-1 up. Currently, now the score's 4-2 to the rest of the world. Currently, could they equalise? Well, find a third and then find an equaliser and then find a late winner. That is literally how things are going. But Charlie Harris is going to make, I suppose, a little bit up for that mistake by Danny. He's trying to go around the outside. Both of them making a little bit of wheel contact. But that's all okay, I think, in the end there. Both of them having just, you know, enough respect for one another. But with the DRS, I'm not entirely sure who got the DRS here. It was actually then Man's Not Bob. And that's going to help Man's Not Bob then stay within a second of his teammate and also remain ahead of then Charlie Harris here in these final closing laps. CPI Danny gets the gap down to 2.5, but it's now gone back up to 2.6, so that gap is in fluctuating all of the time. But I think with a 2-second gap, you'd have to be, well, if you were a betting man, you'd have to be pretty insane to bet against Dudelay taking this second victory. But what a mega drive by Danny to, well, in both races, controlled Silverstone, controlled Silverstone, and then obviously in this race has made one of the most impressive comeback drives that I've seen in probably all of ERL. You know, from 20th down up to second is absolutely mega driving from him in this race. And it's not necessarily easy. Yes, it's a league race. Yes, you know, I don't expect, you know, it to be like 5 lappers where you see silly drivers doing silly moves. Of course, you wouldn't expect that in a league race, but you know, nonetheless, it's still, you know, difficult to get things right, you know, especially, you know, when you consider everything, you know, that can go wrong when you're that far down the grid. You know, you've got to pick them off one by one. And then it's not just about everything that can go wrong, but he's actually come within 1.6 seconds of almost winning this one. But it isn't going to be the win. it is going to be the win for TNR Dudele, who is going to take the race victory at the Netherlands, and surely that will see then the rest of the world win then this event. CPI Danny for the Dutch come home in second. It's Matthias in third. Ehrman will take fourth for the Dutch, a long way ahead of Storms in fifth. Then we will see Apeldoorn. Will it be Charlie Harris ahead of Man's Not Bob? I think it will. Yes, it will. Man's Not Bob beats Charlie Harris to the line. Iron Kid is going to come home in ninth. Then 10th is going to be Girthquake. Then 11th, Piers. Then 12th is going to be Tom. Zonnevild 12th. Iron Kid dropped down into 13th due to whatever penalties he had. Shade is going to be in then 14th. Litz in 15th. Brian in 16th. Witty in 17th. However, Brian, I think, has been promoted up into 15th because Litz had a penalty of some sorts as well. Then it's going to be Witty coming home and the final driver to complete this race. And that has been then the Dutch versus the Netherlands. And I'm pretty confident, safe to say, that the rest of the world won. I might just wait, see if there's going to be confirmation quickly. But whilst we do that anyway, we will go through the results from this race. So, your race result then, fastest lap as well, Dudele taking the win and the fastest lap for good measure. CPI Danny in second, CPI Matthias in third. So another double podium for them two. Then Ehrman in fourth, Storms in fifth, then Apeldoorn in sixth, Man's Not Bob seventh, Charlie Harris eighth, and then Girthquake ninth. Piers in 10th, and then Tom in 11th. Down the rest of the grid, we have Zonnevild 13th. Zonnevild 12th. Ironkid 13th. Shade in 14th. Brian 15th. Litz 16th. Then Witty in 17th. Lucky Egg in 18th. And Algary rounding up the last of the finishers in 19th. So that is literally how they all finished. Then in terms of points, that's literally from, I think, both races overall. So you can sort of kind of get a grasp of the situation. Ultimately, good results from obviously Dudele and Matthias, so them two really doing good. But yep, we'll have to see. Plus also Danny taking the max points there. But obviously these aren't the points I don't think are going to be used to decide this one. So you will have to check the Discord who won. I think though my bet is on it was the rest of the world, considering both races and how many drivers were inside top 2 or top 3 or whatever, and top 5, that basically rest of the world had compared to the Dutch and the Netherlands. So yeah, basically, in other words, I think rest of the world got it. But nonetheless, I hope you've enjoyed this event. Thank you to the organisers of this mid break week, because we are meant to be on a break week, really. So technically today should be my day off, but I'm only kidding. But nonetheless, thank you to the organisers who made this event possible, for putting it together. And I'm sure everyone else is appreciative of it. I hope you've all had fun. And until, obviously, next Monday, where we will return for Tier 1, and then Tier 2 on, obviously, Tuesday, the crossplay division. Obviously, Tier 1 is the other division that we've got here as well, which, by the way, I think it is who's leading the way in Tier 1. Top Car Flogger currently leads the way after Japan. So, and it's actually quite a good battle, actually, up the front so far. There is about 4 cars, well, actually 5, 6, yeah, six drivers currently split by about 20 points in Tier 1. So, yeah, that is a really, really close championship battle. So come back next Monday to see how that one turns out. And until then, please subscribe, like, and share the video. And see you all next week.